It's the summertime, which means conference realignment rumors are ablaze, and this time they're including the Big 12. In today's video, we'll discuss a report that says Clemson and Florida State could join the Big 12 soon. Just how soon, we'll discuss that, plus a Ross Dellenger article, and much, much more. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxwell. It's here for the Back to 12 podcast, and yes, this is primarily Texas Tech YouTube channel, but during the season and really trying to do it during the offseason as well. We try to put out one Big 12 video each and every week. So if you want to join, well, the largest Texas Tech community on YouTube and the most engaging Big 12 community, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. All right, let's just jump right into this and really get to the groundwork of where we are as it stands right now. If you are a Big 12 fan, just like me, I'm a Big 12 fan. I know you are as well. So let's just jump right into it. During Big 12 Media Days, Yahoo's Ross Dellenger published an article discussing Brett Yormark and his aggressiveness during this, I think the most simple word to say is crazy time of conference realignment in college, well, athletics. And if we're being honest, it's just because of college football, right? In the article, though, Dellenger reports multiple people were asking him about what is going on with the Big 12 and Clemson and Florida State. There was a ton of quote-unquote buzz around the subject out in Vegas. Now, if you remember, as Dellenger says in his article as well, discussing Brett Yormark, there was similar buzz that transpired last year at Big 12 Media Days. Well, you know, before the Big 12 added the four corner schools, and we'll discuss the guy that really broke the news when it came to the four corner schools joining the Big 12 here in just a second. But laying the foundation here, Clemson and Florida State want out of the ACC grant of rights because, well, they're not getting paid enough to compete with those high-level programs in the Big Ten, SEC, and Florida State not making the college football playoff last year, even though they had a perfect record, really helped their argument, at least in their eyes, right? So you think about it from that perspective. There's also the Dellenger quote in the sense of what Florida State and Clemson could potentially see in the Big 12, and then really what they've already, had discussion-wise. And Dellenger actually was quoted in saying on a John Kurtz YouTube channel, saying there's been at least early conversations between the Big 12 and those schools. Wow. Okay, there's definitely buzz. I mean, I think that would be the most elementary way to say this, right? There has been buzz, there's smoke, whatever you want to say about Florida State and Clemson potentially joining the Big 12. Will it happen? I think that is a gigantic maybe. And we'll talk about a report that came out late Sunday evening Central Time from Jason Scheer, who reports for Arizona Wildcat Authority. I don't know if it happens, but it feels like over the past couple of weeks, the smoke has been becoming heavier. There's been a lot more chatter about it, and maybe it's just a leverage point for Florida State and Clemson saying, hey, we can go to the Big 12 right now and get this. Now, I will say this about it. The Big 12 has to add funds to get these guys, right? And Brett Yormark has been very open about the way that he thinks the Big 12 may go about adding funds. Nothing is set in stone, but he said he will leave no stone unturned and he will try to be as creative as possible. How creative is he going to be? Some of the examples that he's brought up to bring in extra revenue to the Big 12 and its schools, putting patches in terms of advertising patches on the refs' jerseys or shirts or whatever the hell they're calling those nowadays. And then selling the naming rights of the conference. I know the rumored one was All-State 12. Doesn't sound good off the tongue, but hey, if you add $50 million plus to the pot, maybe worth it. Also, private equity. That was the big one that was discussed and really talked about at Big 12 Media Days. But Brett Yormark was emphatic with his quotes at Big 12 Media Day out in Vegas, a new home since the SEC is now in Dallas. This is what Brett Yormark said. I guess you could say we are still open for business, he said with a smile. This is not the time to press pause. Okay, so if that's the case, this report by Jason Scheer of Wildcat Authority is even more eye-catching, really makes you wonder what's going on because, again, laying the foundation for what Jason Scheer has done in terms of the Big 12 realignment game. I know he's not the most liked guy by some people. I enjoy his work because he's, well, the most accurate when it came down to it for the four corner schools joining the Big 12. He was ahead of anybody in the game, really, when it came down to that. He tweeted out this on late Sunday night, about 5:30 p.m. Central Time. See it on your screen right there. According to sources, there is an internal belief in the Big 12 that Florida State and Clemson are likely to join the conference within the next year or so. Give you a little bit more time to read that on your screen right there. Just one more time. According to sources, there is an internal belief in the Big 12 that Florida State and Clemson are likely to join the conference within the next year. Bombshell of a tweet there. Mostly because, again, you think about where the Big 12 was just really 18 months ago, 24 if you want to push the envelope back a little bit more. They were left for dead. They're supposed to be where the Pac-12 now is. Shout out to them drinking, though, Oregon State and Washington State at Big 12 or Pac-12 Media Day. You need a drink after the year you've been through. There's no doubt about that. But again, Jason Scheer has been on top of this, and you laid the groundwork again for where Clemson and Florida State are coming from. They're trying to get out of this grant of rights that goes all the way through 2036, i.e. a kindergartner is starting school this year. They will be graduating high school by the time that grant of rights is done. Just to give a little point of reference on the time there. Do I know if this is going to happen? No. And if anybody tells you that they do, they're lying to you. But once again, there is just an absolute inordinate amount of buzz and smoke going on around this. And it feels similar to what happened last year. Again, will that be the same outcome for, the Big 12 when it comes down to adding teams like Clemson, Florida State, or other ACC schools? I don't know, but I do think it's interesting in the sense of, yes, it is the media day circuit going on right now, and the Big 12 was the one that started it out in terms of the major power conferences. But you have to wonder, first and foremost, what is ACC media day going to look like? It sounds like it's going to be hella awkward, right? Like it's going to be walking into a party and your ex is over there, but at the same time, like y'all are still talking. I really don't even know how to describe that. It's weird, right? But also at the same time, the Big 12 has been hyper-aggressive on the realignment front and hyper-aggressive in the creativity way of thinking in terms of how can we add more funds? Am I a guy that wants to see the Big 12 add private equity? I mean, probably not. I don't want them to go that route, I don't think. But also at the same time, if it allows you to go out and get two very recognizable names in the sense of Florida State and Clemson, what the Big 12 desperately needs, because you lost Texas, you lost Oklahoma, and like it or not, those two were the big names in the Big 12. If you can go out and add schools like Florida State, Clemson, maybe you add Miami in there as well, and the ACC just falls apart, and the Big 12 is the one that gets those marquee brands because one reason or another, Big 10 doesn't want them, SEC doesn't want them, or those guys want the, big boy chairs at the table, whatever you want to call it. Maybe that's the route you go if you're Brett Yormark, because again, you do need in some ways some of those national brands, right? The most national brand you have if you're the Big 12 right now in football, I could argue is Colorado. And that's because of Deion. They're not even that good of a football team. I mean, shoot, Travis Hunter threw his entire offensive line under the bus while playing the new EA game with Shedeur Sanders right next to him, and he didn't even say anything about it. It's just, oh, yeah, that's common knowledge. Our O-line sucks, right? Maybe you need to go out and get those marquee national names at a high level, and maybe private equity is the way to do that, selling the naming rights to the conference. It's going to be very interesting to see how creative the Big 12 gets on the financial aspect of it, because, again, I think you should do everything within reason to potentially land two marquee schools like Clemson and Florida State. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, why is conference realignment happening? Football, right? And because of these big networks like ESPN, Fox, CBS, whatever it may be, them putting out billions of dollars, right? That's why conference realignment is happening. And if the Big 12 can stay ahead of the game and make sure they solidify themselves as that third power conference, Maybe this is the way they do it, by adding Clemson and Florida State and going the private equity route, or being creative when it comes to the funds. But the big news there in this one is, again, Jason Scheer. I'll put the tweet up one more time for you guys. This tweet is a bombshell, just thinking of this guy's track record, right? According to sources, there is an internal belief in the Big 12 that Florida State and Clemson are likely to join the conference within the next year or so. Bombshell tweet by Jason Scheer. Let me know in the comments if you think Clemson and Florida State will join the Big 12. Just simply give me a Y for yes or N for no, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning into the video. If you haven't already, be sure to like it, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell, not only to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football and men's basketball all year long, but join one of the most engaging Big 12 communities on YouTube right here in the Back to 12 podcast channel.